Welcome to Database Management System video lecture. Today we are going to discuss about second topic, file processing system. What is file processing system? It's a collection of application programs that perform services for the end users, such as production of reports. A group of files which are stored and maintained together for one dedicated application. Each program defines and manages its own data. Let us look at an example. We are maintaining a library data. In order to retrieve the information from library database, we design a library application which can be rendered to the users who are dealing with library. Similarly, for the examination related data, it could be student information, schedule of the exams, duration of the exam, and list of subjects. All this data can be grouped together and maintained as a separate files and which can be accessible by the examination applications. Similarly, registration application. So, all the registration related data can be maintained in various other files and which can be accessed. So every application has got its own set of files which can be accessible and finally serviced to the users. So this is what called as a file processing system wherein data will not be accessible from one type to the other type. So here is the detailed information for each and every data. For library database, we store registration number, name, father name, books issued, and then fine. So all these are the fields of information that we are going to maintain as part of library data. Similarly, for examination, registration number or an ID number, name of the student, address, class, semester, and then grade. Similarly, for registration ID number, name, father name, phone, address, and class. In this manner, we are going to store the data in a different files. So let us look in a pictorial representation how the data can be made. So this is a database where all the data can be stored. All the group of files can be stored. Through this computer, an end user will try to access to the data. So here is an application program which is dedicated for only sales department. So all the data entry and report generation can be defined here. And we will access to this data by using various file definition mechanisms and then file handling routines. So this is for sales department. Similarly, for contracts department also, we do follow the same manner. When we deal with this kind of file processing system, we encounter with various types of drawbacks. So these are listed as follows. Disadvantages or drawbacks or limitations of file processing system are as follows. First is program data dependence. File structure is defined in the program code and all the programs maintain metadata for each file which they use. The first drawback of file processing system is program data dependence. Here the file structure is defined in the program code itself and all the programs maintain metadata for each file which we use. So this is what called as program data dependence. Second drawback is duplication of data, which can also be technically referred to as data redundancy, which is a repetition of data. Different systems or programs have separate copies of the same data. So in that case, more number of copies with the same content can be maintained, which absolutely wastes lot of space and potentially different values or different formats for the same time. Third limitation is limited data sharing. To access to one particular department data, we will define the data as well as the structure of it. Metadata can also be defined for that particular department only. So we will not be able to switch it from one department of data to the other department, and we cannot access from one to the other. So that becomes a biggest drawback of it. So limited data sharing, you don't have a scope of accessing or sharing from one to the other. So there is no centralized control of data. Programs are written in different languages and so cannot easily access each other's files. The next drawback is lengthy development times. So we spend most of the time for developing the data for one particular department. Excessive program maintenance. Same kind of operations are going to be repeated for different file systems. Finally, vulnerable to inconsistency. So when we are maintaining similar kind of data files, and if there is any modifications that have to be made, it will not be reflected onto the other set of files, which leads to the inconsistency. Change in one table need changes in corresponding tables as well. Otherwise, data will be inconsistent. So all these are the drawbacks with respect to a file processing system. And we have problems with the data dependency. The first one is each application programmer must maintain their own data, as I have already told you. Each application program needs to include code for the metadata of each file. Each application program must have its own processing routines for reading, inserting, updating, and deleting the data. And there will not be any coordination among all these set of units. So there is no all these are the list of problems that we encounter with respect to data dependence. So the problems with respect to data redundancy is waste of space, which will have duplicate data. It causes more maintenance headaches, and out of which the third important drawback of it is when data changes in one file could cause inconsistencies. That creates vulnerability to the inconsistency, which absolutely compromises the data integrity. That means data reliability tells you that what you store in the database or in the table may not be the same thing which is being rendered to us. So, in order to resolve or overcome with all the problems which we have discussed, there is only one solution, that is database approach. So database is going to be acted as a central repository for sharing the data, and it can be managed by controlling agent stored in a standardized and convenient manner. So to deal with this, we need database management system. While dealing with this approach, we can visualize the same example which has been used earlier. All these different departments can be merged together and can be stored the same data into a central repository. With the help of a DBMS system, you will be able to access individually from respective departments, which will lead you in data sharing, data independence, controlled redundancy, and better data integrity. All these are the advantages that you can get while using database approach. So a database management system is nothing but a software system that is used to create, maintain, and provide controlled access to users of your database. Database application program is nothing but a computer program that interacts with the database by issuing an appropriate request or SQL statement to the DBMS. Here is an example. This is our database where it stores various data of different departments. And this data can be accessible with the help of DBMS software, which can be in turn accessible with the help of database applications, and which can be initiated by the end user's request. So this is the best example that we can use for better understanding of how this DBMS plays a major role. So with this, we'll stop.